Hey there, Korea driven mom. So now let's imagine two ships sailing in the night where they are sailing side by side and kind of going into the same journey where they're under the starry sky and feeling connected and everything is in harmony with each other. And then eventually they start to go their separate ways because each of them identify a new course because they're not communicating. So they're going separate ways. Isn't that the same thing that happens to our relationships? Because when we are in relationships, we have this harmony where everything is in sync. No matter what happens, everybody is on happy mode. And then we identify all these things that we have in common, maybe even identify values in the beginning. Maybe we don't talk about values all the time, but we feel that this is good. It feels good. We're connected and we continue moving on. Until one day we stop paying attention to each other's growth and what we're doing, and we stop prioritizing ourselves, and then we drift apart. And that happens often when we no longer communicate, or at least we don't come up with ways to enhance our communication. And before we know, we have all these assumptions, which a lot of the assumptions kills the relationship, or at least starts to bring doubts and errors prone communications, including where we are assuming the things that our partners are saying, but they're not really saying. But because we're not verbally communicating or have the ability to read the body language of our partners, we start to make assumptions that they mean something when they actually have not said it, or just a certain way of behaving, or sometimes this feeling dismissed, where you are dismissive, or perhaps you even get to a point where you get silence treatments, for example. So, unless we actually intentionally decide that we want to prioritize our relationship, that we want to change, that we want to do better, we tend to drift apart when we're not paying attention to each other and where we are. So, with that, I want to give you a few ways that you can continue to enhance your relationship no matter where it is right now. If you feel that it's falling apart, or maybe you're not feeling connected, maybe you even feel like you are at the end of your journey together in this relationship, but you know that you want to be together, or you want to enhance your relationship and you just don't know how. So I would say, pay attention to, are you being vulnerable in your relationship? Because so often we forget that being vulnerable is a way that we not only build trust, you gain understanding, but really knowing when our partners are being vulnerable, or when I can be vulnerable and actually open up to my partner to really understand what I might be feeling or what I might be going through. That is actually important, instead of worrying about what they might think or say. When we put ourselves in that position to be vulnerable, you are opening this deepening of part of your relationship, which after you are in this loving relationship, it has to go to transition to this friendship zone. And when you have that friendship as the foundation of the relationship, you also get to be vulnerable with each other, which that's where it's like the sauce, the healthy sauce of your relationship. Because you can say when you mean something, you can say when something is not going right, to actually communicate appropriately with your partner. So, with that said, how about we learn to prioritize our communication? That means say what we mean what we say, to actually tell your partner the things that might no longer serve you, or the things that are not fulfilling you, and be honest with each other so that your partner knows how to meet you where you are, and vice versa, where you meet them where they are. Because sometimes we're not all, super happy or doing really well. It could even be that in our work things are not going well, but we're not paying attention. But what's interesting is when our relationship is thriving, all the other areas of our lives also start to thrive. But when that area is not going well, we start to suffer in our health, we start to suffer in our jobs, in so many other areas when we don't pay attention. That's why this is really important. So not only you can prioritize your communication, you can embrace active listening. That means actually start to pay attention to your partner by really listening to them. That means while you are having a conversation, that you are putting down your phone or putting down your focus, whatever it is, to actually focus on your partner, to understand what are they trying to tell you, and am I really listening actively to understand, not merely to respond. Because when we listen to understand, we get to really know what's going on. And trust me, we all have days that we're not doing so great in our relationship, but we can always pivot when we recognize that maybe this week I didn't do so well, or maybe this day I didn't do so well. Then you can change and enhance the way that you communicate. And also, let's respect each other's individuality. That means you are an individual just like your partner is an individual. But when we forget that we are the individuals that may have separate growths, and to be okay with that, to understand that your partner may be changing and you're not aware because you're not paying attention, but as individuals that they are, they must do certain things on their own, and they may have changes in their behavior and their outcome, but as long as you keep that communication going, you're going to understand who they really are, and by understanding who they really are, you will also respect their space to be themselves. For example, I have my own time where I like to be alone, and it's not really being alone, it's more like I like to be in reflective mode where I can think, to feel, to understand myself, my body, where I am physically, mentally, spiritually. I need that time. And my partner, how he spends his time, if not exercising, he might be playing video game. And I'm gonna be honest, in the beginning, I didn't really love the idea of him playing video games because I felt like a grown man shouldn't be playing video game. Today, I have a difference in my perspective where I can actually respect that part of him, as long as I know when we're doing something together, we actually focus on each other. When I'm busy, he's busy, and he chooses to do that. That's his way of spending time. As long as he's doing that in his own special time, there's no big deal, right? And how about we set healthy boundaries? I mean, healthy boundaries to really understand what are your non negotiables, but also what are the things that you know you need to have. Just like I said, I like to have my own time. I also consider certain times my hour of power. So if I choose to take that morning to go for a quick walk or to go and ground outside, that I recognize, or that I want my partner to recognize, that that is my hour of power. That means if he gets to get the kids to be distracted, I actually really appreciate that. And that is setting a healthy boundary, that that is my time to replenish myself so I feel empowered to be me and to feel good about where I am. And the same goes for him. That sometimes he needs time, or maybe he will go to the store, but he wants to drive by himself without having to take the kids, and that's okay. And certain things also, that we understand how we're speaking about certain situations without overpowering each other, or without trying to make my decision higher than his, and vice versa. That we having that healthy boundary to know our yeses and our nos. And with that, you can foster trust, because when you foster trust by allowing your partner to be who they are and you being who you are, you also start to foster trust because you have the great communication, you are actively listening, you are really understanding where your partner is at and how to support them. And when you do that, in retrospect, they also foster that trust for you. And sometimes we think that our partner should know everything, where they should know how I'm feeling. They should know how I am, that there are certain things that they shouldn't do around me. But the thing is, when we don't communicate, when we don't bring up our boundaries, etc., they don't know that that area is one that they should not cross. So it's really important that to foster trust, you have to communicate openly and direct. And instead of assuming that our partner knows what we're going through or what we expect of them, to actually be very direct so that they understand these are your needs, how to meet your needs, to really foster that trust on an ongoing basis. It also requires you to rediscover that your partner is also changing, just like you are changing. Even the cells of your body changes every 7 years. So if you really think about it, you're not who you were 7 years ago, and maybe not who you were when you first met, depending on how long you are with each other. I know for me, I've been with my husband for about 15 years. That means that we are not the people that we met each other back then. We have evolved, we have changed. That means really getting to know him allows me to also continue to foster that trust, because I know he's changing and how he's changing in his communication, his behavior, to really continue to getting engaged with the conversation, with the understanding where he's at. So I know how to meet his needs based on where he's at, and vice versa. And also practicing forgiveness for certain things that maybe occurred way in the past and we keep bringing it up. So this is me saying that if you're having conversation where we keep talking about things from the past and bringing it back, that's really important to understand that sometimes bringing the past back as a way to say, remember when you did this wrong, is also a way to damage your relationship. So it's really important to know when to stop saying those things and when to ensure that when you're bringing it up, if it is just to make a point about something that is not to make them wrong, then maybe you want to bring it up because it's part of your growth. But if you know it's going to hurt someone, or you're trying to make a point to hurt someone, or just to be right, then you might be doing something that is actually killing your relationship, not really enhancing it. And I know that because I've been there where every little thing was always being brought up to me, even the things that I didn't do. It was like this assumption of what I am doing. And at one point when I met my husband, it was Valentine's Day, and he had a friend from work, and that day was his birthday. I was working and I had certain expectations, but I didn't really speak. I didn't vocalize about it. When he told me that he's going to spend time with this individual, I said, okay. And I just didn't want to be on his way. We were kind of new in our relationship. But for me, that was a big deal. There was expectation that I had. And because I felt that he didn't really recognize that day as important, I took it personally. I literally marked that day as this is the end and this is not going to go anywhere. And I'm okay with that. Like I made a decision that that was the end of our relationship. But then he recognized the errors on the same day, and then he kind of made that pivot, that change, and we had that intense conversation that we understood where we were, so that he knew my expectations, and he knew, and I knew of his, so that we enhance our communication from the get-go. Because sometimes we have this assumption that we understand, that we know, and then because we think that our partner should be reading our minds, we have this expectation that they should know better. But no matter, even when we think they should know better, that's why it's important to continue communicating and to vocalize your needs, your priorities, your values, and the things that are your non-negotiable early on. And spending quality time. How often people say, I spend quality time on my partner. But quality time might be you watching TV together. Guess what? You can watch TV together and give each other absolutely no energy, because you can be sitting side by side and yet you are focused on something else, like a show or some kind of distraction. If you cannot talk and look at each other about something, if you're going to have a conversation but you cannot look at each other and actually give each other that energy, then you are not necessarily giving each other energy. That means that you are not giving quality time. That is spending time, but it's not quality time together. Okay. And also, adapt and grow together. That means when you understand that your partner is changing just like you are, you have to adapt to the changes. That means always continue that communication. So communication is really key in all of this, so that they understand where you are, what are the changes that you're feeling. Maybe the way that you behave is starting to change, or maybe you're having some other issues that before you didn't have, but now it is an issue for you, to talk about it. And when you feel that you're not sure where you are, seek for support so that you are getting the support that you need, where you may be getting a couples counseling, or maybe one of you can get a coach, or you can do coaching yourselves. But to seek for support so that instead of you assuming and let your relationship become this sinking ship where you're going in separate direction, that you are enhancing, because your relationship is worth saving. Especially if you love your partner, you can always make it better. Honestly, you can always fall in love with the same person. And I learned that through the couple that was helping my husband and I when we decided to get married. They were counseling us. And one of the things that I never forgot is you can always fall in love with the same person. So with that said, I hope that this is meaningful for you. And if you are in a place where you're not doing well in your relationship and you think it's the end, trust me, it's not. You can always revive. And if you love someone before, they will always find a way to love you again, and vice versa. And if you're having any challenges and you think communication is really hard, or maybe being vulnerable is super hard, I'm here for you, and I would love to be in that journey with you to support you in your growth.